So once again, our usual disclaimer, this call is being recorded and we place our recording on our YouTube channel. And this call is joined by our Microsoft team members and members of our customers and partners. So just want to give you a heads up. So once again, happy Friday. Thank you very much for joining for another session of Azure Power Lunch. And today we are going to be talking about a very exciting topic, Azure Firewall latest updates. So before, as usual, when we jump into a topic, we just do a quick level set. So folks who may not know, Azure Firewall is Microsoft first-party firewall as a service. This is doesn't require running any virtual machines or setting up any infrastructure. All of the infrastructure is taken care of by Microsoft. Microsoft is managing the infrastructure underneath. You just set up, bring in your firewall policy or rules, and that's it. And of course, um, this is has the ability to monitor traffic. Basically, of course, that goes without saying since it's um, a, is a firewall as a service, so it's provide auto scaling capabilities and HA built in. It has the zonal support now, so if you have availability zone where the region it's available, you can have that there as well. Um, and it allows you to apply the firewall policy on the traffic both east and west. That is between, just like if you look at this diagram, between your spoke and your central VNet, or from on-prem into your central VNet, or vice versa, inbound as well as outbound. Um, it has full integration with Azure Monitor. So all of these alerts, all of these activities are logged there. And if you are using another system, you can send that data using Event Hub, things like that. So all of that information will be available and you can set up other alerts there. Okay. It has, since it's a Azure native service, it has integration with um, things like app service environment and supports for certain service tag, which basically simplify outbound traffic to first party services so you can control that. So all of that is available as a part of this. So makes it a great choice if you are running your services in Azure. Okay, so just a quick level set. Okay, this is once again a quick recap of all the features. Basically we are going to be focusing today on the premium SKU and the feature related to premium SKU and some other some of the feature basically in the context of premium SKU. For example, there are these FQDN filtering as well as web categories. These are some interesting concepts that have come out as a part of Azure Firewall, will make setting those firewall rules much easier and much simpler. So we will talk about that. So I know we talked about Azure Firewall a year ago. Since then, I think at that time it was in public preview. Now we have another SKU available, Azure Firewall Premium, which has gone GA. So a lot of changes. So that's so what's Azure Firewall Premium brings to the table. And one of the most important thing and one of the most asked about feature is TLS inspection. So, and I just want to be very clear. So first of all, look at that right-hand side diagram. You have a central VNet as a hub and spoke model. You have on-prem traffic going on-prem through VPN gateway or ER, doesn't matter. You have the spoke VNets, which are connected to the central hub VNet. You know, pretty standard deployment for firewall. Azure Firewall can do TLS inspection for outbound as well as east-west traffic. So traffic between hub VNet and spoke, or spoke and hub, on-prem to central, and vice versa. At the moment, it cannot do TLS inspection for the inbound traffic. And the workaround is you have to use App Gateway. And I have a diagram as a reference later in the deck. What you do is you put App Gateway in front. It does the TLS, what they call SSL offload. Then firewall is sitting behind it, and it does the inspection, and that's how things work. But it cannot do at the moment do TLS inspection on the inbound traffic. So just keep that in mind. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay, so let's continue going on. It can use key vault pair. Either you can bring in your own key, or if you are in kind of a development environment, you can create your kind of a self-signed certificate and put them in key vault. It has the support for user managed identity, and all of that setup is pretty automatic. And we will take a look at that as well as we go down the deck in a second. So with that, let's go to the next one, IDPS. This is one of the most asked about feature. It allows you to detect malicious traffic both inbound and outbound. And one thing to keep in mind here that it uses you can use URL, you can use basically thing like signature, and we will take a look at it. There is signature mechanism that is available. Please keep in mind that is still evolving. There is not much detail available, and we'll look in the demo as well. Okay, then it has a concept of URL filtering. So what is the difference between URL filtering in premium and standard? So let's say that you want to block google.com. Okay, you can do with either premium or standard. But let's say you want to block google.com/news. Since only premium can do TLS inspection, it can look at not only the FQDN, but the URL. So only premium can block that outbound traffic going to google.com/news, not the standard. So that's one thing you have to keep in mind, that this is the key difference that is there. Okay, and in terms of web category, and that's URL filtering, just I mentioned, this comes in handy when you are dealing with web categories. So we will take a look in the demo in a minute, but web categories allows you to block or allow a set of sites which belong to a certain group. For example, news site, that is msnbc.com, cnn.com, foxnews.com, or you can have the, for example, sports site, NFL.com, ESPN, things like that. So you can either block or deny all those sites. So what will happen is, if let's say you block news sites um, and you allow search engine, in the standard, if you go to google.com or google.com/news, no problem. Since it can only detect the FQDN, it will allow google.com/news. But if you are in premium, where you have allowed search engine but blocked news site, google.com/news will not be allowed. And we will see in the demo as well. And also, that goes without saying that Azure Firewall Premium supports all the features of standard. Okay, one thing very important to keep in mind with Azure Firewall Premium is it only supports policy. If you remember, with Azure Firewall Standard, you can have the rules. You can go in and handpick the rules, or you can use a policy. With Azure Firewall Premium, you can only have policy anymore. You cannot have rules. And I think that makes things simple. So if you have multiple firewalls, you don't have to create rules on each firewall, or may run into a risk where you updated rules in one and not on the other. You can have a single policy and you can apply that policy on all those firewalls. And also, it has a concept of parent-child policy. So let's say that you have different firewalls deployed for different sets of applications, and each has slightly different criteria. In that case, you can have a parent policy which has the common rules defined, but then have child policy which have rules specific to the firewall. Okay, so that's kind of makes things really, really simple. Okay, sorry. This is kind of a quick comparison. The slide deck is there. I don't want to read it. Please take a look at it. I will upload the slide deck. So this is, and I also have the link to it in the resource section. And just keep in mind that if you go to our YouTube video, in the description section, you will find the link to the slide deck. Okay. One thing before we go into the demo, with Azure Firewall now, you now have support for not only Azure DNS, but custom DNS and proxy. Before, it only use Azure DNS, but now if you have, you can use your corporate custom DNS to resolve both internal and external names. Okay. So let's continue going on and let's go into the demo. So what we're going to see is a quick way how you can create a firewall. So let's go in here, go to home. We have firewalls. Let's create a new one. And I just want to show you a few things in that experience. So let's pick this. Let's just use, since we are not going to be actually creating it. Okay, just keep in mind, you can now pick availability zone. So you can say, okay, deployed, I mean, it should have availability zone across that. Okay. If you have standard, as you can see, you have an option of using policy or rules. But if you have premium, no longer that support is there. You have to pick a policy or create a new one. Okay. You have to pick a virtual network. It has to have a subnet with Azure Firewall subnet. That goes without saying. Let's say that if you are using a firewall just to force tunnel traffic to on-prem, in that case, you don't need a public IP. Okay, you can use force tunneling, but in that case, you will need a management subnet for operational traffic for Azure Firewall. It will require a public IP, so just keep that in mind. Okay, in that case, your firewall doesn't have a public IP, but you will have a public IP for the management operational stuff for firewall. This is kind of where Microsoft, I mean, this network will be used by Microsoft to manage Azure Firewall. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So I mean, I'm not going to actually create it. It takes some time. And since this session is only 30 minutes, so we're just going to go to the one we already have. As you can see here, this is very simplistic kind of for display. I mean, you have the public IP configuration. Yes, there's a public IP here. I can add another public IP. Then you have firewall manager. We are not using firewall manager at the moment. It's a topic for another time. And then you have the diagnostic setting. I'm already writing all that information into the log analytics workspace. So that's that. The heart of the system is in the firewall policy. So let's go to the firewall policy. This is the firewall policy here. Overview, this is the policy tier premium, all of that stuff. Okay, this is what I was mentioning, parent and child policy. So you can have, I mean, right now I have only one policy, but you can have parent policy and then you can have a child policy. Parent policy can have high level rules or common rules, and then child policy have rules specific to that particular firewall. Okay. And as you know, there are these type of rules. You have DNet rule, that's for inbound traffic. Then you have network rule for outbound traffic to IP or FQDN. and then you have application rules, which deals with traffic that is going to either service stack, FQDN, or um, web categories. Just keep in mind if you are using, for example, if we are creating a new rule here, we can use an FQDN. What it will do is firewall will still use an IP. It will basically use whatever DNS you set up, either custom or the DNS that is there. The DNS that uh, Azure DNS, and find the IP address, and that's how it will communicate. That's how it will enforce that rule in for the network rule if you use FQDN. Okay. So, and this is the DNS I was referring to right now. I mean, if I want to change, this is the default provided, and this is the custom DNS and things like that. So let's click on application rule. I just want to show a few things here. So let's say I want to add a new rule. Okay. This is the IP address. Let's say we use star all IPs. Okay, so these are the different things. FQDN, okay, FQDN is any FQDN, just examples are here. FQDN tags, this is interesting. These are basically Azure services. So if you are sending service to HD Insight, Kubernetes, all of these Windows Virtual Desktop, you can just select that. You don't have to worry about any IP addresses, they're changing, adding, or removing. Okay, very powerful feature here. The thing is that I'm really excited about our web categories. These are group of um, uh, you know um, websites which belong to a certain group. It's interesting. There is things like illegal software and illegal drug and things like that. So so these are all like the bad categories. And in this example that I want to show you, I mean, you have like search, social distancing, politics, all of that. So once you select that categories, all the sites under that categories will be allowed or blocked depending on how you set up the rules. And at the same time, you can set up TLS inspection, and then you can set what protocol you are going to be using. Okay. And then URL is more specific. As I gave you the example, if you want to blog google.com/news, or you want to blog a certain site, like the I want to show you this example here for that. For example, here I am blocking, and this is just an example, I am blocking this site, that community/events and things like that. So I'm saying don't go to that site, just an example. So I can go to azure.com, but I cannot go to this site, okay? So this is one example. For example, and this one is another one where I'm using categories. So here I have 4 categories that are allowed. So I can go into business, I can go into search engine, web-based email, and sports. So for example, I have a VM running in the cloud that is basically using that firewall. So as you can see, I went to, let me go to google.com. So I can go to google.com, no issues there. I can get there. But let's try, um, let's say CNN.com, because we have not allowed access to news website. It clearly says that CNN.com is blocked. So let me try the HTTPS CNN.com just to make sure. Okay, can't reach it. Once again, it's blocked. Let's see if we can go to google.com/news. Once again, that's blocked as well, because it is checking. Okay, yeah, I'm the news that is the part of the news group in that web category, and that web category is not allowed. So that's why it is blocked. That's kind of an example of how you can use these particular rule. For example, if we try Azure.com, I mean, did that, so that is, yeah, so as you can see, azure.com is allowed. But if I want to go to the events website, that's not going to be accessible. So that's how you can do this. And all of that is able to work based on, second, let me go to the firewall policy one more time. Thanks to, give me 1 second. We have this, if we go to TLS inspection, look at that. This is the certificate. So there I have installed a key vault and a certificate in the key vault, which is allowing me, this is a self-signed certificate, which is allowing me to decrypt the outbound traffic. And that's how I'm able to detect not just the FQDN, but the URL. I mean, basically, Azure Firewall Premium. Okay, so that's how you can do it. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a quick question. So just probably more less a less interesting feature, but one that was just recently added, according to your slides. Um, in each separate policy, I can define a specific DNS server that it can use. So let's say I have a parent one that has a DNS server for external, and then a policy, child policy that might have a DNS server for internal, for example. Just simply, that looks like that's legal and can be done. Yes.
That seems like it. Yeah, I haven't, to be honest, I haven't tried this feature, you know. So that seems like it. I mean, you can apply that feature with a particular policy. Yes, because since everything is driven through policy. Yes.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay. On the parent child, one thing I forgot to mention, there's a recommendation that if you have more restrictive rules, I mean, or if you want to apply a rule and kind of like let's say that you don't want to disable something, you have to have it enable like at a level of alert at least in the parent policy. So for example, let's look at IDPS. Okay, so in the IDPS mode, we have disabled, alert and deny. Okay, you don't want to set disabled in the parent policy. You want to set alert at least, so nobody can disable those rules in the child policy. So if you have a parent child and the parent is saying alert, you can do either alert or alert and deny. You cannot do disable. So that's important. I mean, this is like you can enforce these things at the parent policy level and then go from there. Okay, so I know we have 5 more minutes. IDPS is an important topic, so let me just quickly cover it. So this is alert. Disabled is this feature will not work. These are signature rule. Okay, I know what are the signature IDs and that. Um, Based on what we know, um, their more detail will come as a part of firewall, where you will find out what each signature does. This is Microsoft proprietary system for IDPS based on the threat intelligence that we gather, millions of data points that we have probably every hour based on our properties that all around the globe. These are the signatures, and what I have been told that there will be more information. There will be an ability to select those signature with more details and what signature you want to apply and deny or not. That it will be available. But at the moment, just think of it. This is for kind of malicious black site detection, things like that. Here, you can use a bypass URL. So you can say, okay, if there is a request going to these URLs, doesn't matter. They don't follow the signature rule, allow it. Okay, so you can basically do that. That's definitely doable. That if you want to do that. So for example, and I just want to show you a quick example. So for example, here I go into uh, this site, and so I am now trying to go to NFL.com, and I'm trying to use an agent Black Sun. I mean, that's known agent for using malicious things or bad things. So if I try it, it's gonna take a few minutes, but the request will, in the end, time out. But at the same time, since we have Azure Log Analytics enabled, so you should see that in the Azure Log Analytics. So if we go into Log Analytics in the diagnostic setting, actually in the logs here, and hold on a second, diagnostic setting here, and I thought I have somewhere. They're already okay, never mind. So if we look at the logs, and should have Azure Firewall, but see that. Okay, what we're gonna do is all the okay. So this is some of the queries that I have ran recently. This will, and just keep in mind, if you are doing something, the result may not show up for 5 minutes or something. I mean, it takes some time for those results to show up. So these are the results from the last 24 hours. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do it in local time, and let's sort it the other way around. So we just ran something. This is showing up here. So this is the network rule violation. Hopefully you guys can see my screen. And this tells me this. So uh, this is the request was going to this address. And user agent, suspicious user agent, Black Sun. This is the classification, a network Trojan was detected. And this is the signature that is that. So that's how you can capture these detail. You can set up alerts on Azure Monitor. Hey, something happened. Somebody is trying to access something nefarious, and it may not be something big. Maybe somebody accidentally did that, or it may be that there is something, somebody has hacked into a system and they're trying to do something, kind of send out some data or something like that. So it will help you detect that, all that activity. So I know we have 1 more minute. So any questions? Okay. Oh, folks, just a couple of quick things. Actually, this one I definitely want to show. This is if you want to do TLS inspection all the way in. So your traffic is coming, put Azure App Gateway in front. This will do the SSL offloading, and then firewall do the inspection. And so that's how you can do it. So at the moment, as I said before, you can do east-west TLS. Firewall can do east-west TLS. It can do outbound, but it cannot do inbound. For inbound, you have to have app gateway sitting in front. So that's one thing you keep in mind. Okay. So with that, any questions? Final call. Otherwise, I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend, and hope to see everyone next week for another session of Azure Power Lunch. Stay safe, folks.